Imagine standing in a crowded hotel kitchen, the air thick with excitement after a political victory. It's past midnight, the clinking of glasses still echoing, reporters scribbling furiously, campaign staff smiling with relief. Then, suddenly, the sound of gunfire shatters the celebration. A future president collapses. Chaos erupts. People scream, people fall, and in the middle of the stampede, witnesses notice something they cannot shake from their memory. A young woman, dressed in a simple polka dot dress, moving quickly through the corridor. She is smiling. Some swear she is laughing. Others insist they heard her murmur words so cold, so unforgettable, that they have haunted the case for decades. "We shot him. We shot him." And then she was gone. No photographs. No fingerprints. No arrest. Just a figure seen by dozens, erased as if she had stepped out of history itself. Who is she? Why was she there? And how could a woman so vividly remembered by so many vanish without a trace? To this day, she remains unidentified, a phantom wrapped in polka dots, tied to one of America's darkest nights. Some called her a distraction. Others swore she was a key to a much bigger plan. What is certain is this: the girl in the polka dot dress became one of the most disturbing mysteries in American history, a mystery that still casts a shadow more than 50 years later. The year was 1968. America was standing on the edge of history. The Vietnam War raged on, protests filled the streets, and the nation was still grieving the murder of President John F. Kennedy just 5 years earlier, followed by the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. only months before. Hope was fragile, but it had a face: Robert F. Kennedy. To millions, he was more than a senator from New York. He was a symbol of unity, a man who many believed could bridge the divides of a torn country. On June 4th, he won the California Democratic primary, placing him within reach of the presidency. That night, inside Los Angeles' Ambassador Hotel, Kennedy celebrated victory, shaking hands and thanking supporters. It should have been the beginning of his greatest chapter. Instead, it was the end. Shortly after midnight, as Kennedy walked through the kitchen pantry toward a press conference, shots were fired. In an instant, the future of America was changed. He collapsed onto the floor, mortally wounded, and within 26 hours he was gone. A gunman, Sirhan, was quickly subdued and arrested. On paper, the case seemed clear: a lone shooter, motivated by politics, caught at the scene. But witnesses told a different story. Among the chaos, they described a young woman, around her 20s, wearing a white dress covered in black polka dots. They said she ran down the hotel hallway with another man, repeating words that chilled those who heard them. "We shot him, we shot him." Some dismissed it as hysteria. Others called it the most important clue of the entire case. Yet despite multiple eyewitness accounts, despite the consistency of their testimonies, the girl was never identified. No police report filed her name. No photograph confirmed her presence. No suspect was ever brought to trial. She was there, and then she wasn't. A mystery that has endured for over half a century. Was she a figment of panic? A planted distraction? Or the missing piece in a much larger conspiracy? This is the story of the girl in the polka dot dress, a mystery that continues to haunt investigators, historians, and the American people. Tonight, we'll walk through the life cut short, the crime that shocked the world, the investigation that followed, and the haunting questions that remain. Because until her identity is known, the shadows of that night will never truly rest. It was just past midnight, June 5th, 1968. The ballroom of the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles pulsed with electricity. Supporters of Robert F. Kennedy packed shoulder to shoulder, their cheers echoing off the chandeliers, television cameras rolling, journalists scribbling headlines of a man who seemed destined for the White House. Moments earlier, Kennedy had delivered a powerful victory speech, thanking Californians for securing his win in the state's Democratic primary. His words were filled with hope, promising a nation weary from violence and division that change was within reach. "Now it's on to Chicago," he said, smiling as applause thundered through the room. As the crowd surged forward, Kennedy made his way off the stage. Instead of heading straight to a press conference, he chose a shortcut through the hotel's kitchen pantry, a bustling corridor filled with hotel workers and campaign staff. The narrow space smelled of coffee, warm plates, and cigarette smoke. Supporters reached over carts of dishes to shake his hand. Kennedy moved calmly, his smile never fading. But in a matter of seconds, that scene of joy and relief turned into one of chaos and horror. Gunshots split the air. One, then another, then another. 6 shots in total. The sound reverberated against the tile walls, echoing like a storm. Kennedy fell backward, his face still holding the shock of the moment, as aides and supporters screamed in terror. Some scrambled for cover, others lunged at the shooter. A young man later identified as Sirhan, his revolver clutched tightly in his hand. Tables overturned, dishes shattered, and in that narrow passageway, history changed forever. In the seconds after the gunfire, as Kennedy lay bleeding on the floor, witnesses recalled something strange. A young woman, dressed in a white dress with black polka dots, was seen rushing toward the exit. Some described her smiling. Others swore she was laughing. But what froze their blood were the words they claimed to hear her say as she disappeared into the crowd. "We shot him. We shot him." Plural. Not "I shot him." We. It was a detail that planted a seed of doubt so powerful it would outlast the trial, the official reports, and decades of investigation. Confusion reigned. The hotel erupted in screams and cries. Reporters stumbled over one another to reach telephones. Campaign workers sobbed, holding Kennedy as blood pooled beneath his head. Outside, crowds chanted, desperate for news, their hope collapsing into grief. The nation that had already lost a president and a civil rights leader in the span of 5 years was now forced to watch yet another dream fade away on live television. But amid the heartbreak and panic, the question remained: who was the girl in the polka dot dress? Was she truly there, a key witness, or even an accomplice? Or had fear and hysteria played tricks on the human mind in those frantic moments? This was not just about the man caught with the gun. It was about the possibility of something larger, hidden in plain sight, and the chilling idea that someone crucial to the story had slipped away before anyone could stop her. In the immediate aftermath, the narrative seemed simple. The shooter, a 24-year-old Palestinian immigrant named Sirhan Bashara Sirhan, had been tackled to the ground, the smoking revolver wrestled from his hands. He confessed almost immediately, telling officers he was angry about Kennedy's support for Israel. To the Los Angeles Police Department, the case appeared airtight. A lone gunman, a political motive, an open and shut tragedy. But when the investigation began, cracks quickly appeared in the official story. Witnesses were interviewed, and many described something that didn't fit neatly into the lone shooter box. At least a dozen people recalled seeing a young woman in a white dress covered in black polka dots. Some remembered her running from the kitchen area. Others said she was laughing as she fled. And then there were those unforgettable words: "We shot him, we shot him." Their testimonies were consistent, detailed, and chilling. Yet, the more these statements piled up, the less interested investigators seemed to become. The LAPD concluded that the girl was a product of hysteria, a phantom created by panic. Their reports often dismissed or outright ignored the witnesses who swore they had seen her. Files mentioning the polka dot dress were quietly labeled unreliable. And when questions about her identity surfaced at press conferences, police shifted focus back to Sirhan, describing him as the sole actor in a tragic, senseless crime. Behind closed doors, FBI memos told another story. Some acknowledged the witnesses. Some even noted the urgency of finding the girl. But before long, those leads went cold. The polka dot girl was officially branded as imagination, a ghost born of chaos. Still, the witnesses did not recant. They stuck to their stories for decades. They knew what they saw, and they knew what they heard. The phrase "we shot him" refused to die. As time passed, suspicions deepened. Researchers, journalists, and even former law enforcement officials began pointing to details that didn't add up. Some claimed that Sirhan was hypnotized or manipulated, raising the specter of CIA mind control experiments under the MKUltra program. Others argued that additional gunshots had been fired, suggesting more than one weapon in play. Political motives swirled around the theories. Was Robert F. Kennedy silenced because of his growing opposition to the war in Vietnam? Because he threatened powerful interests at home and abroad? And if so, was the girl in the polka dot dress part of that plot? An accomplice, a handler, or simply a decoy meant to distract? For every question, the official response remained the same: Sirhan acted alone. But the inconsistencies refused to go away. And then, just when detectives thought they had silenced the rumors, a shocking discovery reignited the mystery. At first, the mysterious woman was treated as an eyewitness curiosity, a detail destined to fade into the chaos of that night. But as the years passed, her presence refused to disappear. Every time the story of Robert F. Kennedy's assassination was told, the girl in the polka dot dress returned. And with her came the questions that would not die. Who was she? Some insisted she was nothing more than a figment of hysteria, a hallucination born of shock and terror. Others suggested she was a decoy, planted deliberately to create confusion as the assassin struck. And then came a darker possibility, that she was not an innocent bystander at all, but a key part of a larger conspiracy to silence Robert Kennedy before he could rise to the presidency. False leads consumed investigators. At one point, a woman was briefly suspected and questioned, but no evidence ever tied her to the crime. Sketches circulated, names surfaced, and yet none matched the witnesses' descriptions closely enough. The more people searched for her, the further away she seemed to slip. It was as if she had been designed to vanish. And then, decades later, fragments of new information emerged. Declassified government documents hinted at programs the public was never meant to see. Covert experiments on mind control, psychological manipulation, and the use of unwitting individuals in secret operations. Suddenly, theories that once seemed unthinkable began to gain traction. Could Sirhan have been programmed to kill? Was the girl in the polka dot dress more than just a companion? Was she a trigger, a handler, or the signal that set events in motion? Journalists, independent investigators, and even some members of Kennedy's campaign staff refused to let the mystery rest. They dug into old police files, interviewed surviving witnesses, and uncovered testimony that had been buried for years. Some witnesses claimed they were pressured to change their stories. Others said their accounts of the girl were ignored altogether. Slowly, a pattern began to emerge. The more one searched for her, the more the official record seemed determined to erase her. To this day, no definitive answer exists, but one truth lingers like a shadow over the entire case. If the girl in the polka dot dress was real, and if she was more than just a frightened bystander, then America's justice system may have missed a key conspirator in one of the most consequential crimes of the 20th century. In the months following Robert Kennedy's death, the nation demanded justice. The trial of Sirhan began swiftly, and prosecutors wasted no time in building their case. The evidence was clear. Eyewitnesses saw him fire the gun, he was subdued at the scene, and he openly admitted his hatred for Kennedy's policies toward Israel. The jury deliberated, and by April of 1969, the verdict was unanimous. Sirhan was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to death, a sentence later commuted to life in prison when California briefly abolished the death penalty. For law enforcement, the case was closed. One gunman, one motive, one tragic ending. The official record would read as if the girl in the polka dot dress had never existed. Witnesses who had spoken so firmly about her presence were dismissed as confused, their testimony brushed aside as unreliable. The sketches, the descriptions, the chilling words, "We shot him," were filed away, forgotten by the system. But outside the courtroom, the story refused to die. For decades, the polka dot girl haunted America's memory. Was she a phantom created by fear and chaos? Or was she real, a missing accomplice in a crime that altered history? The answer was never found. No arrest, no identification, no closure. To this day, her identity remains one of the most elusive mysteries in American true crime. The outcome left a bitter divide. On one side, officials and skeptics who accepted the lone gunman theory. On the other, survivors, researchers, and truth seekers convinced that something, or someone, was deliberately hidden. And at the center of it all, a nation still grieving the loss of a leader who might have changed the course of history. More than 50 years later, the debate continues. The courtroom may have sentenced Sirhan, but it never answered the question of the girl in the polka dot dress. Was she real, or was she myth? An innocent stranger, or the missing piece of a conspiracy that shaped America's destiny? Why does this case refuse to fade into history? Decades have passed since that night in Los Angeles, yet the image of the girl in the polka dot dress lingers like a shadow. Perhaps it is because her presence strikes at something deeply human, the unsettling idea that we can watch history unfold with our own eyes and still never know the whole truth. Psychologists have long debated what happened in the chaos of the Ambassador Hotel. Was it mass hysteria? Did frightened witnesses convince themselves of something that wasn't there? In moments of trauma, the human mind can blur details, latch onto fragments, and reshape memory. And yet, so many witnesses told the same story, with the same words, in the same detail. Could that many people have imagined the same thing? Or was she real? If she was, then the mystery cuts even deeper. Because that would mean someone vital to the truth of Robert Kennedy's assassination slipped through the cracks, unacknowledged, unnamed, unaccounted for. The one who got away. A figure who embodies every unsolved riddle in American crime. Not just the missing accomplice, but the fear that justice can sometimes look the other way. And maybe that is why she haunts us. The girl in the polka dot dress is not just a witness or a suspect. She has become a symbol of how fragile truth can be when power, fear, and secrecy collide. To believe in her is to believe that the story we were given is incomplete. To doubt her is to accept that memory itself can betray us. Either way, she is unforgettable. So what do you think? Was the girl in the polka dot dress real? Or was she the perfect ghost of America's darkest night? Before I share my final thoughts, I want to hear from you. If you had been sitting in that jury box back in 1969, staring at Sirhan across the courtroom, would you have accepted the lone gunman theory? Or would you have placed your faith in the witnesses who swore they saw the girl in the polka dot dress? Your answer matters, because the way we interpret these moments changes the way history itself is remembered. Tell me in the comments, was she real or was she myth? And if she was real, what do you believe her role truly was? An accomplice, a decoy, or something far more complex? I read every response, and I want to know your theory. And if cases like this keep you awake at night, the unsolved mysteries, the unanswered questions, the stories that refuse to rest, make sure you subscribe. Because we uncover these cases every day, and the next one may be even more unsettling than this. More than 5 decades have passed since that night at the Ambassador Hotel. Sirhan remains behind bars, his name etched into history as the man convicted of killing Robert F. Kennedy. But the girl in the polka dot dress, she remains nameless, faceless, and untouchable. For some, she never existed, a phantom born in chaos. For others, she was the missing piece in a puzzle too dark to solve. Either way, she lingers, haunting the edges of one of America's most chilling tragedies. The truth is, we may never know who she was or why she was there. Perhaps she was nothing. Perhaps she was everything. What cannot be denied is the impact she left. A single figure in a crowded hallway who turned a tragedy into a question that still echoes across generations. Was America told the full story? Or was the truth lost the moment she vanished into the night? As we close this case, it's worth remembering something important. History is not always written by what we truly know, but by what we are permitted to know. What gets preserved in files, what gets erased in reports, what witnesses are believed, and which voices are silenced, all of these choices shape the narrative we inherit. And sometimes, the most important figure in a crime is not the one caught in the spotlight, immortalized in headlines, or locked away in a prison cell. Sometimes, it is the one who escapes the pages of official history, slipping into shadow, unnamed, unacknowledged, unseen. The girl in the polka dot dress has become that figure, a phantom stitched into the memory of a nation. Witnesses swore she was there, investigators dismissed her existence, and over 50 years later, her identity remains the gaping hole in a story that was supposed to be closed. Was she a conspirator? Was she a decoy? Or was she nothing more than the cruel trick of memory under fire? We may never know. What we do know is that her shadow continues to haunt the Robert Kennedy assassination, long after the verdict was read and the case was considered settled. And that's why this case matters, because it reminds us that truth is fragile, that facts can be bent, testimony can be buried, and evidence can vanish. It reminds us that sometimes justice is less about finding the answers and more about deciding which questions will never be asked again. The girl in the polka dot dress remains, to this day, a question without an answer, a symbol of what can slip away, even in plain sight. This was the mystery of the girl in the polka dot dress, a case that still divides historians, investigators, and ordinary Americans alike. But just across town, another case, equally strange, equally disturbing, has remained unsolved for decades. It involves whispers of hidden motives, witnesses silenced, and truths that were never meant to surface. Tomorrow, we'll open the files on that story. And once again, you won't just hear the evidence, you'll be the judge.